All right, Shalom. Of course, I want to start off by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Just going to be a little flow, excuse my stutter, a little flow through the Spirit. I always like to do these. It's, I was just looking, man, at this whole circumstance, going on over, in Ukraine right now, man. Yesterday, they were reporting on, some military actions over there, right? They call it shelling, right? So a few people lost their lives over there, so, for everything that we're seeing, man, it looks like this thing's going to escalate to a world war, man. And that's a good thing. That's truly a good thing, because that goes back to the scriptures. The scriptures say, there's 3 woes, right? But the third woe comes quickly. So World War II, if we do the history on it, World War II was, what is this, like 70-some years ago? Or 70-some years ago was the, the Second World War. So in, the Most High's eyes, that's a short period of time. Because when you deal with the scriptures, a day with the Most High, or I should say an hour with the Most High, is roughly 42 years. Right? Because that, a day is 1,000 years. Right? So going by that, if you do the math, an hour will come up to roughly 42 years. Right? So, in the Lord's time, that's a small period of time, man. Just like going by that, we know that with the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years, according to, 2 Peter, 3:8. We know that means, the Christ, since he's on the right hand of the Father, to him it was like he was crucified 2 days ago. But down here, it was 2,000 years, right? Because the concept of time is different in the 2 separate realms. So anyway, I just make that point to say that when it says that, the third woe comes quickly, for us, 70-some years, that's like a lifetime, but in the Most High's eyes, that's pretty much nothing, man. Bear with me a second. Right, so it looks like, from everything we're seeing, by having our eyes, on the world stage, we can see, man, that the Lord's heating these things up, because we know, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the Lord who's behind it, because the scriptures tell you that the heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord. What is that? Proverbs 21:1, right? The heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord, and as the rivers of water, he turns it whatsoever he will. Right, so the heart of the king, meaning what? The mind of these political figures, in authority. The Lord really has his hand, pulling the strings in the background, making them, do certain things. Like how Putin's going in there right now, amassing, 200,000, 150,000, troops over there, man. Hey, look, the truth is, none of us know, what's going to happen, because we don't have like a, it's not like we have a crystal ball that we can look to, through and see the future, right? None of us have that. So we just have to watch. You just have to keep your eyes, on the world events, man. got these guys going around talking about, oh, well, all of the news is fake, right? All of this that's going on is fake. Like, I'll tell you something. I was just listening to this guy. What's this guy? Jake the A-hole, he calls himself. I just tuned into his stream for a couple minutes, to see what's going on. Guys on there talking about, oh, well, all of these, trucker protests and whatnot. See, all of that's not real, right? All of that's not real is what he was saying. It's like, how the hell do you know? Guarantee you didn't go there. You weren't in the crowd, right? You weren't involved in it. So how the hell do you know that it's not real? They're just saying that because that's what they're best at doing, right? Is saying that things ain't real. Like these guys in the what's these cats? The Tried and Refined, which is a Hebrew, Israelite, congregation. They say that nuclear weapons don't exist. It's like, hey, look, man. Hey, if you want to believe them, then you don't believe it. But guess what? When one comes for your black ass, you're gonna believe it, man. When you hear those sirens go off and see the missiles coming in, you're gonna believe it then, man. I don't mean to seem dark like that, but it's funny. The level some of these people are on out here, man. Oh, nuclear weapons don't exist. How the hell do you know? That you have people who are in the military, who have, who work with these weapons. Is that not true? Right, there's people in the military right now, as I speak, who, are working with these type of technologies. So is all of that fake? I mean, come on. It's utterly ridiculous. But guys don't, seem to reason. And then furthermore, I have to say this, by taking that stance, you'd also have to discredit the scriptures. Why can I say that? Because the prophecies in the scriptures said that these type of events will be taking place on the earth leading up to Christ's second return. So you don't believe in the scriptures then. If you're saying that all of this isn't real, you must not believe in the scriptures. All right, that's by logical deduction, you'd have to claim that you don't believe in the scriptures. And it's funny because these Tried and Refined guys, right, ITR is what they call themselves. We've had some of their flunkies, call into our live shows in the past. We've done discussions about, a whole range, of subject matters that primarily are in the New Testament, right? So we just got word in a few nights back. They revealed that that they don't believe in the New Testament anymore. So they don't believe in the New Testament. They only subscribe to the Old Testament. It's like, so wait a second. So whatever happened to all of that debating about what the New Testament means? Like the new covenant, right? The Christ, right? The Son of God, coming to be, put on the cross for the sins of his people. Oh, Mystery Babylon, right? The MO, the rapture. Oh, primarily the gospel, right? All those things are found in the New Testament. So, if they don't believe in the New Testament, by logical deduction, they must agree that they don't believe in those subjects mentioned. So they can't really have a stance, teaching that Vatican City's Mystery Babylon, because wait, that's in the New Testament. So you guys said you didn't believe in the New Testament, so therefore there is no such thing as, the MO, or Mystery Babylon, or Christ. That means there's no such thing as that, because they claimed, they don't believe in it. So by logic, one could, reason, by logical deduction, one could reason, with such a statement and come to the, may I use the word correlation, or may I use the word conclusion, that they don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, that's what you call hypocrisy. So here it is, they'll join you, and go back and forth with you for hours on end. And here it is, 2 months later, it turns out that they don't even believe in the books that they use to debate their belief from. I mean, these guys are so far gone, man. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I don't even know what type of word to use, to describe, this group, right? ITR, right? Tried and refined. Which Apostle Gabar, said that they should call themselves, tried, died, and laid to the side. That's truly what those cats are, man. They're tried, fried, and tossed to the side. I mean, we don't try to be mean, but I mean, it's like, come on, man. Then you got these cats, like this character Diana, which it sounds like a female, but it's actually a male, right? So the cat called into the show. We were having a discussion, and he's on there saying that that Satan is the God of the Old Testament, right? So anywhere in the Bible, well, primarily in the Old Testament, that you read, about, Yahweh, he's saying that's talking about Satan, right? So the God who gave the Israelites, the 613 commandments, oh, that was Satan. The God that led the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, oh, that was Satan. Right? The God that made the old covenant, oh, that was Satan, is what these guys are saying. And basically, it was absolutely laughable, because I asked him a question. I asked him about what about Isaiah the 53rd chapter, which, for those of us in the know, is a prophecy of Christ that we read about in the Old Testament, right? So it's a prophecy of Christ coming in the future, that we can read about in the Old Testament. So I asked him, well, who is this? He didn't really know, but what he did is he went to the verse where it says that it pleased the Lord to bruise him. And then he tried to say, oh, what type of, God, would do this. And then he tried to, tap dance, because what he did is he said, are there any fathers here? Or any fathers listening in? It's like, so how would you feel, to abuse your children like we see in this chapter here, right? So he's trying to use that, to sway on the people's emotions, to make it look like, the God of the Old Testament is some type of like, satanic, deity. The fact that he would, crucify his son and would take pleasure in it. But here's what you're not going to do. All right, here's what you can't do. Is we understand that the Most High, is a unique figure, man. The Lord loves, but he also hates. The Lord, is going to try, all of his elect men. It tells you that in, Hebrews the 12th chapter, right? Every son of God has to go through chastisement. Meaning what? That bad things are going to happen to you in this truth, man. Why? Because this is not our world, man. But we're seeking a world to come, to reign with Yahushua, who the world ignorantly, calls Christ. But the only way to get there, is you got to go through some, afflictions and adversities, man. That's the only way you can get to that city, man. Which is what? The kingdom of heaven. That's the only way to get there. It ain't no easy walk, man. For damn sure. But, you can't really argue with these guys, because all they'll do, you bring up a verse that talks about, God, making evil or doing evil to somebody. Like, I'll give an example. I was reading the last page of the book of Job, right? The last chapter. I believe there's either 41 or 42 chapters. I believe it's 42, actually. Yeah, 42 chapters in the book of Job, right? So I was reading the last chapter of the book of Job. There's a verse in there where it basically says that, the Lord turned away from all the evil that he brought upon Job. So wait a second. I thought God didn't bring evil upon anyone. He'll be like, well, that's talking about Satan. That's talking about Satan. So, I mean, as I said, you can't really reason with certain people like that. You can't really reason together with somebody who has that field of theology, because you can't change their mind. You can't change their viewpoint, because no matter how many precepts you bring up to prove, that God, is not all love, but God also brings calamity and hardship upon people, they won't accept it. No matter, you can show them 100 precepts that literally say that, but they won't accept it, because that goes against their belief. And then this cat tried to make it look like that that Christ, right, Yahushai, is basically, he's all love. He's not gonna, Christ wouldn't hurt a fly, is how he was trying to make it, look like that Seventh-day Adventist, Catholic, sweet Jesus. So then I tried to show him places in the New Testament. May I also mention certain places I showed him were in red leather, meaning what? That they were the words from Christ's mouth, right? So I show him where Christ is condemning people, right, to the lake of fire. So I ask him, well, wait, you said Christ don't kill people. So what do you think about this verse? Specifically, you can use a couple examples. Matthew 13, Matthew 25, Luke 19:27. Name a couple of verses. But you ask him, well, why is Christ killing people here? He'll be like, well, you see, that's Satan. That's not Christ. It's Satan. He's making himself appear, as Christ, to try to trick us. So as I said, you can't really reason with somebody like that. Why? Because no matter what type of evidence, you show them, they can't really, be convinced otherwise, right? There's nothing I can show him to convince him that that's not true. I can try, and I definitely did, try to persuade him otherwise. But you quickly realize, the game that they're playing. And that's a strong delusion, man. What is that? I believe that's, 2 Thessalonians 2:11. The Lord just a strong delusion that they should believe a lie. Right? The Lord's going to send them a strong delusion they should believe a lie. So Diana, he's under a strong delusion, man. Believing that the Old Testament God is the devil. Damn joke. Then you got these other cats, man. Like, I was on Eric Dubé's video site earlier. I was looking at something he recently posted. He's on there talking about, he believes that dinosaurs didn't exist, which I definitely disagree with that. There's plenty of reasons, to believe that they do exist. Plenty of reasons. But there was a character in the comment board, forget the cat's name, but he was on there trying to argue, like, well, show me in the scriptures where it says dinosaurs. I tried to explain that the Bible does speak of creatures we call dinosaurs today, But you're not going to see the word dinosaur in the Bible simply because the word did not exist at that point in history, right? So you're not going to see that exact word in there because that word did not exist, at that point in time. Just like the word America is not in the Bible. America is spoken of in the Bible, but the word America is not mentioned in the Bible. But we know it is talking about America in certain, scriptures, because it uses code word to describe it, in ways that we can understand today. Right? Like, I'll give an example. Calls it that great city who reigns over the kings of the earth. Right? And even Hillary Clinton said, when she was running for office, that once something, is pushed in America, the entire world follows. And that's definitely true, man. Why? Because the doctrines, and the philosophies, that are pushed, that are pushed, over in this region, they reach pretty much all nations, man. Give it enough time, and all of these, Eastern nations, that follow, old customs of life, eventually, they'll be westernized. And I'll give you a good example. Over in Saudi Arabia, they follow those ancient customs, right? But, recently, over there, a woman recently got liberty where they can operate, vehicles, because over there they were restricted, on what they could and cannot do, such as driving. They didn't have, driving rights over there. However, over the course of time, by the, Americanization, they were able to, to get driving rights eventually over in Saudi Arabia for women. Which that's a good example, that I gave. But where did they get that philosophy? That philosophy, came down from America. I'll verify just a second. Which I won't go for too much longer. I don't want to make it, too long of a lesson. But going back to the dinosaur thing, I asked the cat, but what about Job the 40th chapter, dealing with this creature it describes as the behemoth, right? Now, if you read it, it describes this creature that it's, which I don't have to go into the description. You can read it yourself, Job chapter 40. But one of the things it mentions is this creature has a tail as long as a tree. Now, if we take a look at all the other descriptions it gives, plus that one about his tail, the only conclusion we can come to is the one that makes the most logical sense is a sauropod dinosaur, which is the dinosaur you see in, like, the Jurassic World, or Jurassic Park, movies. Now, that's the only creature that we know of that really fits that description in Job the 40th chapter, is what we call a sauropod dinosaur. That's the only creature we know of that can fit such a description given. And you can read it yourself. And if that's not true, if that's not a dinosaur, well, the question is, what does that mean? What is that creature? This cat tried to say it's an elephant or a hippo. You see, you can't do that, because going by certain depictions and descriptions that the text gives, there's no way that we can logically conclude that it's a hippo, a giraffe, or I believe he even said a horse, which is utterly ridiculous. Those creatures don't have a tail like a cedar tree, is what it calls it, right? A long tail at the size of a tree. The only creature we know of that can fit such a description is, as I said, a sauropod dinosaur. Look that up. If you don't know what dinosaur I'm speaking of, you can easily find a picture of it on the internet. Right, so dinosaurs are in the Bible. You're not going to see the word dinosaur in there because that word did not exist yet. That doesn't mean the creatures are not in there. It just they were used, they were called different names at that point in time. Right, they call them dragons, reptiles, beasts. And that's why throughout the centuries and throughout the ages, you have stories of tribesmen, or knights, fighting dragons, they call them. So the dragons are not, what you see, in these Hollywood movies, like I'll give an example, like Smog, right? That's not the dragons it's talking about, but rather it's talking about these dinosaurs, these prehistoric so-called creatures, or I should say these so-called prehistoric creatures, right? Because here's where the deception comes in, because what they're doing, and I listen to, Eric's, spew on that subject matter, because I've read his book, the FlatEarth Conspiracy, which is actually a very good book. The only chapter I disagree with him on is what he said about the dinosaurs, because he has a whole chapter, dedicated to try to debunk dinosaurs. I totally disagree with that chapter, and I think he did a poor, job at trying to, express, or to convince us of his supposition, right? To convince us of his belief that dinosaurs didn't exist. I think he did a poor job at doing so, because he made a statement and said, oh, well, regular people never find dinosaur bones. So isn't that suspicious? That it's always these archaeologists that find these sites? I was like, well, no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, you could find hundreds of stories, well, thousands all over the world, of people doing regular things, digging in their backyard, traveling or whatever they're doing, and they stumble across bones, in the ground. And what they do is they call in the experts to do an excavation of the site they found, where they call in the professionals. Bear with me a second. And then he tries to say, oh, well, the museums, they, hide the real bones, and they put, fake plaster bones out, on display. And I agree they do that, but there's a perfectly logical and reasonable conclusion for why they do that, is because these bones are brittle, right? They've been down in the ground for so long that they're very brittle, right? So they need to be protected, and put under lock and key. So they'll make a replica. So when you go to the museum, you can see what it looks like, but it's a replica. I'll give you a perfect example. Around the world, there's certain, well, I'll give this is a good example to give. There's a museum called the Museum of Funeral History. Look that up on YouTube. The reason this is relevant is they have a part of the, the attraction there that you can go in and learn about the presidents, about their death and whatnot. And they have one there for Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by a man named, what's this guy? John Wilkes Booth. Right, so they have, a replica of Abraham Lincoln. And they also have a exact replica of the, the pistol that John used, during the assassination, excuse my stutter, you know the words I'm trying to use. Hey, Moses said, I'm not a man of much speech. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. But during the assassination, John used, that pistol, so they have an exact replica of what the real one looks like. So is it the exact one that he used in that event? No. It's the exact replica of what the real one looks like. You know why? Because the real one is on the display somewhere else in the world. Which I believe it's, of course, obviously in America, but it's at another museum, right? But this particular museum, which is the Museum of Funeral History, they made it an exact replica to put on display so people can see it, right? So the same thing with the dinosaur bones, as they made a display of fake bones that are replicas of the real ones, so that the real ones can be protected. And it makes perfect sense, right? It makes perfect sense. So as I said, you know, some things he was trying to, you know, to say to prove his point, I think was very laughable. And you see, here's the deception, because if you listen to what they're saying, the conclusion they're trying to draw is that, you know, they made dinosaurs up basically to go along with the whole, you know, heliocentric, you know, ball earth doctrine. Right before, you know, humans, you know, 65 million years ago, you know, there was these prehistoric beasts that we call dinosaurs, you know, that lived, right? So then, you know, eventually they got wiped out. You know, then over the course of millions of years, you know, certain creatures came and went, but then eventually we came on the scene, you know, and evolved. You know, so they're saying that the dinosaurs, you know, were made to fit that doctrine, and I would definitely disagree with that. Can they be used for that doctrine? Of course. However, that's not entirely true, so that doesn't mean they're fake. There's certainly many reasons to believe that they're real, because you see, the truth is that humans and dinosaurs actually coexisted with one another not too long ago. And that goes into the statement I made. There are plenty of, you know, ancient stories, you know, tribesmen and, you know, knights, right, facing off with these prehistoric creatures. And then there's also, going into the scriptures, Job the 40th chapter, the only creature that fits that description is a sauropod dinosaur, right? Or another one, around the world, there's, you know, certain hieroglyphics and, you know, temple carvings, you know, the Inca stones, and pottery that they found, clay figures. They found these things all over the world that depict prehistoric creatures. And on many of the occasions, you'll see humans around these creatures, you know, whether it be a cave drawing, a pottery, you know, artifact they found that has inscriptions on it, a temple carving. Right? So that's, you know, and you can look into all these things, you know, don't just believe it because I'm saying it. You know, look into it. You know, that's what I did. You know, I had the idea, you know, that, you know, I used to believe in the round earth, right? I don't believe in it anymore after my independent research. You know, and same thing with the dinosaurs. I still believe in them, but I understand that humans and dinosaurs coexisted with one another at one point in human history. And the evidence for such a claim is definitely astounding. You know, once you diligently do your independent research, you know, on these subject matters. I'll give you another example. Just like they'll tell you that the sun is 93 million miles away. Like, for one, how the hell do you know that? Why is it not 100 million miles away? Why is it not 86 million miles away? How exactly did he get the number 93 million? You ask, they don't know. How far away is the moon? They'll tell you it's, oh shit, what is it, 230,000 miles, I believe, 290,000. Someone can correct me down below if you know the exact measurement they give, but it's in the 200 and some thousand, miles away is what they claim. I mean, first of all, how the hell can that be the case if you know, the sun and the moon, you know, at certain times when they pass over each other, they're literally the exact same size. You know, and then further on, what are the odds that the sun and the moon could overpass one another? I mean, that's an insane coincidence, right? Because all of this is, you know, a random, you know, accident. You know, all of this is a random, you know, evolution that, you know, mistakenly happened, according to them, you know. So, doesn't it seem like an awful lot of a coincidence that the sun and the moon are the exact same size and are also at the exact same, you know, distance where they can, you know, pass over each other and literally, like, overlap one another? Meaning what? They're literally the exact same size in the exact same, you know, orbits, you know, with the Earth, if you get the notion I'm giving. That would seem like an illogical, you know, conclusion to come to think that randomly happened. The Big Bang, you know, just, you know, created all this. I mean, that's absolutely laughable. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, but here it is. You know, you're seen as the weird person, you know, for coming to the conclusion, you know, that the world was intelligently designed. Or you're seen as the weird person for thinking, I'll give you an example. I'm walking in front of a massive building here. Now, obviously the building that I'm walking next to was intelligently designed, right? There was men that came out, they brought building materials, and they labored to build this massive structure, right? They had to bring the glass, you know, the doors, the marble, the what else? Oh, you know, all the other building materials, right? You know, nails, installation for the walls, you know, electric, you know, components. You know, the list could go on and on. You know, and you can add in, you know, onto the list in the comments, but it's all irrelevant, because the point I'm trying to make is obviously the building did not randomly assemble itself by magic. Obviously people, intelligent beings, you know, had to come out and assemble the structure. So the same thing with the world that we dwell in and we ourselves. Obviously we had to have been intelligently designed, and the world that we live in had to have been intelligently designed. And one way you can prove it is simply by looking at the body itself, because their claim is that, you know, it all randomly, you know, mutated and, you know, and evolved, you know, over the course of time. But such a statement would be such an illogical fallacy, because you just have to take into consideration, just as one small example, that clearly blows the idea out of the water, and that is that you need your brain and your heart. They both work together, right? The heart pumps the blood to the brain, so therefore the brain, you know, can control the rest of the body. So going by evolution, how could have a creature have lived with only a brain and without a heart, or vice versa? How would it be possible for both of those things to just randomly come into existence at the same time, to work in harmony with one another to control the body? That's an illogical fallacy, but that undeniably refutes the idea of evolution, is because you need both the heart and the brain in order to work together to control the body, right? So one could not exist without the other. So obviously they did not just pop into existence by magic, you know, by a random coincidence. Obviously they were intelligently designed by a intelligent, you know, force, which, you know, we believe is, you know, the Most High, you know, his Son and the holy angels, right? They the Lord, Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai, gave the angels the blueprint to establish the world. That's why it says in the text in Genesis, it says, let us make man in our image. Right, so they had an image, but the point is, as it said, let us make man in our image. It says it uses the word our. That means we know there's more than one person that's involved in this. So what? It's Yahweh the Father, his Son, Yahweh Shai, and then the angels. So the Lord gave the order, and the angels went and constructed the world. Which creation, the story of creation, took place over 7,000 years. Right, so this earth we live in was designed within 7,000 years. And that's a deep saying in and of itself, man. Because these Christians would be saying that, the story of creation was, was 7, literal days, right? It was 6 days, like 6 24-hour days that the world was made. And then the last day, which is the 7th day, the Lord rested. So the world was made in 6 days. But then on the 7th day, the Lord, rested from his labor. As I said, they totally don't know what the hell is going on. According to the scriptures, we know that the creation took place over 7,000 years. It was 6,000 years of creation. But then there was also another 1,000 years where the Lord, and the architects, they rested. Right? They rested from their labors. And during that 1,000 years, the creatures and the humans, could, develop, as far as civilization goes, and, develop in number, during that 1,000 years when the Lord, took his rest. All right, as I said, man, the whole creation thing, and that's a whole other can of beans, man. These churches are going way the hell off with what they're saying. I mean, so far gone, it's not even, can't even make a damn joke about it. Which I ain't gonna make this video too long. I just wanted to throw a couple topics out there. Bear with me a second. Oh, and by the way, you can read about the creation story in 2nd Ezra's the 6th chapter. Right, 2nd Ezra's chapter 6 talks about the creation of the world. Because I was listening to this one cat yesterday, man. This guy was saying that, the Apocrypha isn't inspired. Then when he went into his evidence, his evidence was, we don't see anybody in the Bible ever quote from the Apocrypha. I'm thinking to myself, hell is this cat talking about? Christ himself directly quoted the Apocrypha. Not only Christ, if you go to, what is that? Hebrews the 11th chapter, where it was talking about great men of faith, starting from Abraham, and his son Isaac, all the way down, to Stephen and whatnot. But guess what? There's a mention in there. I believe it's around the 35th verse, if I'm not mistaken. But it mentions men who were brutally killed for not obeying a king's commandment to disobey the law and the scriptures. It's like, where do I find this story at in the Bible? And I know the answer. The answer is they were talking about the 7 brothers and their mother in the book of 2nd Maccabees, chapter 7. Right, those are the ones they were speaking of, who were brutally put to death for disobeying the king's commandment. Because the king, if you read the story, the 7 brothers, the king commanded them to eat swine's flesh. But guess what? They said, we will not eat swine's flesh. So therefore, they got, burned and, killed in many, gruesome ways. You can read the story yourself. Not Second Ezra's, Second Maccabees chapter 7. Right, but those are the men that it was quoting in Hebrews chapter 11. And if that is not true, well, then one needs to provide the story for who it is talking about. And what you find out is no one really can. Let me see. No, and he was going on and on with a bunch of madness, man. But anyway, I think I'm gonna call that the lesson there. I hope that was edifying. If anybody made it this far into the video, go ahead and put hashtag scroll in the comment section just to go off the image on the screen. But anyway, I'm gonna say shalom.